My brain right now is burning up. It's burning up with all these different ideas that are flowing through my head. Uh, it was all sparked by what happened today. So today wasn't an exciting day physically. I didn't do anything special. No PRs, no anything, right? The reason why my brain is burning up is because I made a connection today. I'm onto something. As funny as that sounds, and as tired I am to say that, today was significant. It was a significant day because I've learned something. I connected a few dots. And it all started because of this weightlifting last couple of days that I've had, right? I'm playing around with the barbell. I'm trying to learn how to do the, whatever you want to call it, high hang snatch or hip snatch, jump snatch. I don't even know what the term is anymore. A bunch of you guys have said things along these lines. But basically, I'm playing around with the snatch. And basically, it's kind of like learning how to jump with the bar and then, finish up at the top. But ultimately, what's happening is I'm trying to learn how to do what's called triple extension, knee, ankle, and hip extension. Today I came in and I was doing that. I was doing that in the green area before I even recorded some of these things. The squat racks were busy. So I spent like 15, 20 minutes with the bar over there. And as I was doing that, I was kind of like near the mirror over there. I kept kind of looking to the side to see, what my hips are doing and whatever. And I kind of noticed that my hips were being lazy. As in, I just can't contract my glutes in that kind of vertical position. And this is something that I've noticed for the last few weeks, maybe even a month now. This kind of pattern of basically my guts falling out forward. Anterior pelvic tilt, getting worse. Now, I don't really care about the aesthetics of all of this stuff. As long as I'm not obese, overweight, and all that, I want to be a healthy kind of frame and I want to look good, whatever, all that. But when these symptoms cause performance issues, that's when I kind of get perked up to the idea. So what's caused this? So I started thinking back. I'm like, okay, for the last month at least, I've been in this heavy front squat focus, which led me to doing a whole lot of volume in bodyweight squats or Hindu squats, vertical torso squats, which is essentially all quads. And in this period, I've noticed a change in my body. I really have. My quads have grown substantially. I've never had quads this size in my life before. But with it have come other issues, like the anterior pelvic tilt. I've also started feeling, on occasion, hip pain. Now, not hip pain to the same severity as used to completely derail me before, but inkling of hip pain, and not just the right side, also the left side, which is interesting. Previously, I know that when that happens, it's time to do some pulling. In recent times, I've done no pulling. I've done a whole lot of pushing with my legs. So Hindu squats, front squats, all that. Occasionally, I'll do back squats, but it's all very low volume. And now I'm here. I've got these lazy glutes, lazy hips. I've got these developed quads. And I've got this inability to perform a deadlift of my previous standard. I can't hit 260. I can't hit 250. I hit 250 a few weeks ago, but I can't 260, 265. It's all feeling very hard. I feel like I've regressed to some extent, even though in recent times I have hit 3 PRs in basically a week. I hit 170, 175, a few days apart front squats, and then I follow that up with a 212 back squat. So all is going well. However, I seem to have hit a wall. In recent times, in the last week and a half, I've been feeling the weights are starting to feel heavy. I still might hit 170 on the front squat, but I'm not feeling good doing it. And so then today I come in and I've got these lazy hips. I've got these ideas of anterior pelvic tilt, and I'm like, okay, let me do something. for the glutes. So after the green area warm up with the bar, I jumped into the glute thrust machine, which is essentially like a barbell thrust, hip thrust. But there's a machine, so it's a belt instead of a bar. So I did a whole bunch of sets with that, and I felt my glutes really turn on, contract, basically pump up real good. And then I went in and squatted and all of that, and I felt better. I felt stronger and all of that. And I wanted to go back to the whole glute business to finish off the session. But that belt was like giving me a hard time with that hip pain, like not the hip pain that I spoke about earlier, but just the belt crushing me, the top thigh kind of region. It's quite uncomfortable. And that's kind of the reason why I'm not a fan of barbell hip thrusts either. It's just because it's kind of weird, man. You're supposed to posteriorly tilt your pelvis into the bar, essentially, and then you got this pain blocker, which kind of prevents you subconsciously of doing that. So I never really liked it. I don't really care how many pads you get. Probably you can get used to it, conditioned to it, like hook grip and all of that, but like front squat rack and all that. But I never really wanted to invest the time, and I kind of looked elsewhere. And so to finish off the session today, I decided to do some rack pulls. Why rack pulls? Well, rack pulls because I just wanted to be in that bent over position, which sort of mimics the back positioning and the knee positioning that I feel I'm the weakest at coming out of a squat. It's kind of like that 90-degree hip angle, 90-degree knee angle, that kind of positioning. When you kind of set the bar up to that height, it's around just below the knee kind of rack pull height. That's what it is. Essentially, what I'm getting at here is that in the last month, I've done a whole lot of quad work, a whole lot of vertical torso. And because of that, I've neglected my glutes and my hamstrings. Even though I've done a whole lot of hamstring curls in the last few weeks, it hasn't sufficed. It hasn't helped me. It hasn't done enough to reverse or to balance all the work that I've done for the interior part of my body. So now I'm in weightlifting, and I have a weird feeling. I can't really extend the hips. I can't really deadlift properly. I've got this anterior pelvic tilt. It's pulling my guts forward, and I just don't feel strong anymore. And so that leads me to the very next thought is, well, how the hell did you get 2 or 3 PRs in the space of a week? How did you do that? Well, this is where I go back a month or two, even before that, and I look at the exercise that I did before that and the adaptations that would have made from that period, which would have spilt over to the period that we're talking about right now. So there's decay of these gains or these adaptations that we go through. So say you do something today and you do it for a whole week. Well, these adaptations will not just die off the day after you stop doing them. They will have like a decay or a graph. They'll have a fall off effect. And if you don't train it, saying, 3-4 weeks, then you start to see the complete decay of it, and you don't really have the benefit of that exercise period. Well, I had a whole bunch of time, if you guys remember, I was doing 60 kilos for 50 reps. That's back rack or back squats I did. And then I kind of fell in love with the whole quad pump, and I was like, yeah, that's the whole point of this exercise, the quad pump. And then I went to the bodyweight squats. I think that was a mistake because I falsely concluded that the whole benefit of this thing is about the quads, where in fact it was a lot more. Back squats hit your glutes a whole lot, hits your quads, obviously, hits your core, hits a lot of different things. And I just basically went, I just want the quad aspect in that. And I started doing bodyweight squats. Now, bodyweight squats were great, and they did hit the quads even further, but the true effect I feel of the PRs were from the back squat 60 times 50. But I concluded in my mind that it's the Hindu squats. And so this is where it gets really, really tricky to kind of associate what's caused by what result is due to what. It gets really, really tricky. I still want to front squat. I still want to hit 180. That still needs to be the focus. I've said all of this stuff to you to basically say, I gotta do more pulling. Now, if I was doing back squatting to the same intensity and the same focus that I'm doing front squats, I probably don't have to do as much pulling because back squats are more leaned over, and it's kind of like a half. Front squats are all about verticality. And even though verticality is fantastic, you are only hitting one side of the body. Even though it's a lot of upper back and a lot of quads, you are missing out on a whole bunch of other things. Glutes predominantly, core predominantly, because you are using heavier loads when you're doing a back squat than you are in a front squat. And so there's something to be said about that. So what am I planning to go forward? Well, I need to hit leaned over positions. I think the rack pull is a really good thing to do, and it's a lot easier to do volume in a rack pull than in a off the floor deadlift. So as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, few options. One option is to go back to 60 times 50 back squats. But that's going to take, I think, a lot of energy out of me, and I won't be able to have that same focus on the front squats. Do the 5x5, the 5x10 on the front squats. Because once you do 60 times 50, you're done, man. You're pretty much done. And so what I'm thinking right now is, okay, maybe I'll do an even more leaned over position that a back squat is, and just do rack pulls. Do rack pulls and basically address both of the sides of the coin. So continue doing Hindu squats. Continue focusing on that verticality. Front squat, Hindu squats, Olympic weightlifting. It's all about vertical. That's all packaged into one kind of basket. What about the bent over positions? I'm not doing anything for that. I'm doing 3 or maybe sometimes 4 times singles, daily maxes on the deadlift. That is not enough volume to combat what I'm doing on the anterior side. So to balance out the equation, if you will, I'm not a mathematician, but let's say it that way. To balance out the equation, I gotta do some volume for the pulling, because now my body is settling into this new regiment of anterior, vertical. You know, everything's vertical, and now I'm starting to see, you know, the old things come up from under the carpet, you know, from under the bed, from from the history. I'm starting to get a bit of hip pain, and in the past, this would absolutely drive me insane. But I know what it is right now. I know what it is, and I'm calm. I know exactly how to combat that. Gotta balance the equation. So I don't know what the ratio is, and I don't really know what to tell you guys, but you gotta do some damn pulling. And pulling, when I say pulling, I'm not talking about rowing or pull-ups. I'm specifically talking about hip hinging, essentially. RDLs, rack pulls, deadlifts, block pulls, whatever you want to call them, some sort of thing where you are basically pulling something off the floor. Because that is going to address the back side of me. Now, in the past, I've said to you guys, the front squats are like even more superior than the back squat because it's got this upper back component. That is true, but I don't think it has the same effect on the lower body, or like on the lower back. I can't focus on front squat and back squat at the same time. I feel like it needs to be one or the other focus. So I'll do the front squat and I'll just supplement with rack pulls. I think that's what I'll do for now. I thought about doing the whole bar hip thrust stuff, and I did that today. And although the glutes really feel like they're absolutely getting smashed, I'm thinking to myself, what about the erectors? I'm thinking to myself, what about the rest of the hip hinging components, man? What about the calves, right? Like when you're doing a high repetition pull, the calves are working, the soleus, the anterior tibialis, hamstrings, you know, they're working, the core's working, everything's working. And it's a heavy load, right? Which is something that I'm not getting from, definitely from not from the weightlifting stuff that I'm doing right now. I mean, that's just a freaking barbell. And definitely not from the front squats. It's another light version of exercise. So I think I need to do some sort of decent volume in the posterior chain. I think rack pulls are really good. I'll play around with that. That's kind of what popped up in my mind today. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Right now, what popped into my head in that little pause is that period, I don't know if you guys remember that period, where I started implementing marching. I don't know if you guys recall that, probably 4 months ago, 5 months ago now, February I reckon it was. I was doing a whole lot of marching. And And I started hitting 180 for 5x5, and I went up to 190. I reckon I hit that for a few sets of 5, and it was all going great. Like I was in a freaking groove of all time, and I was attributing all of that to marching. I was like, it's marching. And so then I started breaking that idea down into bits and pieces. Is it the hip flexors in marching that are doing the work? Is it the glutes? Is it the glute medius? You remember, I was doing pistol squats. I was trying to do step ups. I was trying to do all of these things to try and pinpoint what is actually the effect of marching on the squat. Similar kind of thing as what's happening right now. I concluded that it was the marching, but it might not have been the marching, because just before that, the period before that, what did I do in January? I did 200 kilos for a shit ton of sets of 5 RDLs. So then I stopped them, and I had this like freakish period of squatting, and I'm like, no. And then whatever I was doing in the squatting, I was like, no, it's the marching. So this is where you look at the training log and you start flicking pages back and forth like months on end, and you're looking through like a more zoomed out window. Okay, what was the last 2 months of training like? The chances are, if I have a really good squatting period, the chances are I did a lot of posterior chain stuff. It's hard. It's hard to make conclusions. In a way, you have to make conclusions and move forward with these beliefs that you concluded with. So then you have some sort of hypothesis to test. Because if you don't have a hypothesis, if you don't know what you're testing, then what are the results meaning? You have to make an assumption. And then if the results are negative, then you say the hypothesis was wrong. Let's try another hypothesis. Let's try another thing to test. And this is how we go in circles and circles. So sometimes it gets frustrating because you're like, damn it, man, I've just wasted a whole bunch of time doing this stuff. But today, the reason why my brain is on fire is because I'm basically thinking about 6 months of training in one kind of thought, and I'm trying to find similarities in these things. Why did 212 come up? Why did 175 and 170 on the front squat come up? What were the causes? Was it the Hindu squats? Was it the sets of 50 back squats? Or was there something more? I also did a few sets of deadlifts off the floor. Maybe that had some sort of an effect. So this is where you kind of like go, what's going on? Like my quads right now are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And really, like I said, they've never been bigger. Yet my progress in the front squat has seemed to have hit a wall. Like I'm not progressing week to week like I was expecting. Like the mass on my legs is progressing, right? Something has stopped. What's missing, man? What's missing? What's decaying? What's the decaying attribute? What's the decaying effect that's happening here? Something has dropped off. And it's not just last week. Let's look back a month or 2 months. Anyway, that's where my mind is right now. This weightlifting bar work basically started this thought. Why are my hips so freaking lazy? Why can't I extend my hips? The more I try to extend my hips, I feel like I'm just sticking my freaking guts out. Then I look at the mirror and my guts are hanging out. It's not that I'm getting fat, it's because I'm interior pelvic tilting, and the small of my back is basically in the midline of my body, and my belly button is like, half of my body in front. That's how it feels. Anyway, that's what's on my mind right now. It was a good session. I didn't really talk too much about it, but it was a good session. I connected a few dots. Now, I have a few names to mention in this video. I'm looking for a piece of paper that I've misplaced somehow. Let me put you guys on hold for a sec. Okay, I found the list. Somehow dropped below the seat. But 3 names to mention in this video. 3. It's crazy, man. So the names are as follows. The first one is kind of like a code or something, like a abbreviation. XEJDX-, that's one. Thank you for that. Joseph Tiliende, hopefully I said that correct. And Sahil Jain. 3 names. I think 3 guys. I'm not sure. It could be a female. I'm not sure. I appreciate you guys. It's been a very, very long time since I've had 3 guys pop up on Patreon at once. It's a crazy feeling, man, to see all these people come to my corner and support me in what I'm doing in my journey. It's much appreciated, man. It's a blessing. So thank you, and thanks to everyone else on the list, on the comments. You guys are teaching me so much in the comments, man. Like, you guys are clearing up a lot of stuff in the comments. Like, I'm going back to comments with more like speed than usual, because I'm like, all right, it's time to learn something, because you guys are providing that feedback. So that's really, really cool. Anyway, guys, this is going on too long. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.